Hey everyone, um, my name's Zach Robertson, and today I will be demonstrating my final project for CSCI 1250 that I have named Battle Boats due to copyright concerns. That's a joke. So I guess let's stop and let me go ahead and try to share my screen. All right, there we go. Okie dokie. Um, so the project's goals was to create a simplified version of the Battleship game using Python. We had to implement a 4x4 grid without using arrays or list. Uh, How the game works: a two-cell boat is randomly placed, and the player has up to 5 attempts in order to guess its location using inputs such as A1, D4, B3, etc. So, with that being said, I guess let's get into the functionality. So we'll go ahead and run module. Alrighty. So this is the start screen for the program for the game. It says "Welcome to Battle Boats." There is a two-cell boat hidden on a 4x4 grid. Enter your shots, your guesses, as a row then column, so A1, B1, etc. Excuse me, I've got a cold or something and been fighting it, so I hope you can understand me. So how the grid works, going back to the grid, each cell is labeled by its row and column, so you can see the row ABCD, column 1, 2, 3, 4. And I used a dictionary to bypass the parameters of not using a list or an array. So anyway, getting to the boat placement, I programmed the game so that the computer will randomly place the boat in two adjacent cells while still staying in bounds. So I'll show you player input. So we'll just start with A1, and it says miss, and you can see that was our first guess 1 of 5. After user input, it shows that we had a miss using a zero and an A1, and it comes up as guess 2 of 5. So let me show you what happens if I use a repeated shot. So we'll do A1 again. It says you've already guessed that cell, and it comes back still as guess 2 out of 5. Um, if the user puts in an invalid guess, so like anything greater than uh, A4 or D4, so like Z3, so we'll put in Z3, invalid input, enter A1, B2, etc., and it's still saying guess 2 out of 5. Um, I programmed the game to not count invalid or repeated guesses, and I did this in order to make it more fun and less frustrating for the user because I think we've all lost a game on a technicality, and honestly, it just sucks. So let me show you the rest of the game. So that was A1. Let's go to B2. That was a miss. C3. Oh, I hit the boat. Funny enough, I've run this game probably two dozen times and I've never won it. So this is sort of funny that it's happening on the video. So we'll do D4 and then we'll do A2. I know that's not logical. It's probably D3 or C2 or something, but I just want to show the whole game. So you can see after each shot, after each shot, yeah, the attempts are updated. So you saw that after my guess C3, it said hit, and then my next guess was a guess 4 out of 5, D4 miss. Then shot 5 was A2 miss. Um, After I've exhausted all my shots, that's what the game returns. It says you have exhausted your shots, you lose, and then it prints the grid. It shows the boat was located at, and in this case, it was located at C3 and C4. And you can see that because it's got a B in both of those cells. So that is the game running. I guess let's talk about the challenges that I faced and solutions that I was able to come up with. So the first major challenge I encountered in this project was making a 4x4 grid without using an array or a list. After a little bit of research, I learned that I could use a dictionary and still stay within the parameters of the project. So a diction so sorry. So see, a dictionary can be used to represent a grid in Python by mapping coordinate tuples to values. And each key in the dictionary would be a tuple, which would represent the coordinates, row and column of a cell in the grid, and the corresponding value would be the content of that cell. A little creative troubleshooting there. The second major challenge I faced was boat placement. I had to make sure that the boat or ship um, occupied two adjacent grids while still staying in bounds and that it could be placed either vertically or horizontally. And I was able to address this issue by randomly selecting a starting cell for the boat and then determining its orientation. So I'll show you that in my project. So here it is. Place a two-spot ship randomly. So you see I set the rows up as A, B, C, and D, the columns 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I set the direction. So the computer randomly chose H or V, H for horizontal, V for vertical, and then just did an if else statement. If the direction was H for horizontal, then it would choose a random row. And if it was vertical, it would choose a random column. So if the placement was horizontal, then the second cell was assigned to the right of the first. And if the placement was vertical, then the second cell was assigned below the first. So if it was horizontal and the first cell was A1, then the second cell would be A2. If it was vertical and the first cell was A1, then the second cell would be B1. And in order to prevent the boat from being placed out of bounds, I wrote the code to restrict the starting position. For horizontal, the first cell would only be placed in columns 1 to 3, and for vertical placement, the first cell could only be in rows A to C. And this ensured that the cells were always adjacent, aligned, and in bounds. And that's what this column index variables for, and this row index. So that was the second major problem that I encountered, and I had to figure out a way around it. So The final challenge that I faced was preventing invalid and or repeated guesses from counting towards a player's total attempts. Um, so let's scroll down a little bit on this. This is the actual game. So originally, I used a for loop because it's neater and it's more efficient. But this caused every input to count towards the total number of guesses, which I didn't want. So to fix this, I changed this loop to a while loop, and the while loop increments or incremented the attempt counter only when the player enters a valid guess. Invalid guesses will show a message saying that what the player entered is invalid or repeated and ask for another guess. And like I've previously said, I just felt like this made the user experience more pleasant because it would suck to lose a game to a technicality. And since we're talking about issues and everything we found, just a little debugging story. When I first wrote the code, I made both my columns and rows numbered. So like 1 1, 1 2, 1 3. But that just seemed really messy to me. And I figured if I changed one or the other to a two letters and then the other one numbers, so like A1, B2, it seems more appealing and it reminds me of the old Battleship game. But anyway, when I rewrote my program, I forgot to change how one of my variables was called, and I kept getting a syntax error. And I stared at that code for well over an hour, and I just could not figure it out. But anyway, I finally said, "Screw it." I got up, I took a quick 10-minute break. As soon as I came back, I sat down and I looked right at it. So it just goes to show you that fresh eyes and taking breaks are always a good idea. And that segues us into lessons learned. So we've learned a lot in this class over the past 7 weeks. And while undergoing development for this game, I mostly learned how to bring everything that I have learned in this class together, as well as some things that we didn't get a chance to cover. I I learned I gained experience using dictionaries as an alternative to arrays and lists. I also learned more about randomizing and boundary checking and how important it is. So, like keeping a two-cell ship or boat in the boundary. It's important to development. Um, Also, validating input just reiterated to me how to handle user input more effectively and efficiently. And just overall, developing this game reinforced logical reasoning, problem solving, and debugging, and how important they all are to developing. So, future enhancements, the possibilities are limitless, well, almost limitless. The few that I would like to concentrate on, if I did any, would be alternate difficulty levels, either by changing the amount of attempts the player has or by extending the grid size. So even with a 4x4 grid, I felt that 5 shots, 5 attempts, guesses, whatever you want to call them, seemed a little low, especially if you go about guessing in a logical manner. So I think the best way that I figured out how to do it is just to go diagonal. So A1, B2, C3, D4, and sort of divides the grid. But if you don't hit anything, that only leaves you with one more shot, and you still have what, 6, 11, 10 more areas. That just seems a little more difficult. So I'd probably consider the 5 attempts on a 4x4 grid the hard difficulty. Medium, I'd probably give the user 7, and then easy would be 10. But that's neither here nor there. Um, I also thought about adding colors and or sounds to the game to make it more appealing so that I could engage a wider audience. Um, I have a 4 month old and she loves things that make noise and that are just crazy colorful, which I know she's not going to be playing a battleship emulator game right now. But I think by adding colors or sounds, it would intrigue like younger kids or a younger audience. So anyway, but all of the potential enhancements would build on the core concepts that were developed in this project. Um, I guess that's pretty much it. In conclusion, this was a fun, albeit a challenging project. I wish that I would have had more time to concentrate on it. Um, 5 days seems a bit rushed, but that's neither here nor there. Developing it has reinforced what I've learned in this class. My brain hurts. I'm probably operating on like 20% capacity right now. Um, but it is done. And like I said, it was a very challenging but fun. And I guess let's have a little bit of fun. And I'm going to run the game one more time and see if I can beat it. So first guess A1. Of course, that's a miss. Let's try B2. Miss. C3. Miss. D4. And a miss. Let's do A3. And I suck. It was at D1 and D2, so that figures. But it's all good. Um, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed my video, and have a good day.